Welcome everyone. Today's webcast is on productivity tools for Civil 3D CAD managers. My name is Brian Lewandowski. I am the product manager at CTC Software, and I'll be doing the presentation for today. So I'm assuming that most of you dialed in are CAD managers of some kind, maybe de facto, maybe things just land on your plate, but you also have to do 150% production time, or maybe you're one of the lucky folks who get to focus most of their time or a lot of their time on CAD management type tasks. It really varies across organizations, but either way, a lot of what we do is template work. And with that, there are quite a few challenges working in Civil 3D, managing templates and standards and all that stuff so that our users can work as effectively as possible, all the while following our organizational standards. So what are one of the first challenges? It takes too much time, right? Some of this stuff, building out styles, just editing styles, overhauling layers, all these things that just when you think you've got them nailed down, you have to change or adapt to some new client or maybe some new workflow that your teams have developed. Right now, it takes too much time. It's hard for you to get to it. There are a ton of details to keep track of. You think about all your styles and layers and blocks and you name it. How do you keep track of all that stuff? There's real challenges there. A lot of the interfaces that we work in, some parts of Civil 3D for the end users can be great and pretty streamlined to work through, but the back end of Civil 3D can be pretty slow or even glitchy in some cases. As we're trying to keep our templates clean, we often run into all these unpurgeable items, be it layers or blocks or text styles or you name it, right? And we end up with this extraneous information in our templates. And then what we often overlook is just the inexperience with template work. And a lot of you, I imagine, have probably done a lot of template work over the years, but oftentimes you might not come back to a particular part of it for months or even a year. And so, in effect, there's inexperience with that. You forgot how to do that. And so all these things contribute to what end up being mediocre templates a lot of times. And mediocre templates give us slower production. So as CAD management staff, that's one of our main motivations, one of our main responsibilities, to provide the best standards and templates and support files to make production go as streamlined as possible. So the work that we're doing on those standards is pretty important, right? And what are the factors in this stuff? There's all kinds of pieces. There's our AutoCAD basics like Linetypes and plotting setups and blocks. We've got layers, of course. There's text and dimension and leader styles. There's Civil 3D object and label styles, description key sets and figure databases on the survey side of things. And then all kinds of settings where we default behavior on this stuff. There's a lot of different pieces, and the tools I want to show you guys today address a ton of these areas. In fact, with the CIM Manager Suite that I'm going to go through, the majority of these areas, we've got ways to make it easier, faster, and more streamlined for you with a variety of these tools. So I want to show you guys those firsthand. So we're going to jump right into Civil 3D, and I'm going to start walking you through these different pieces. So first one is dealing with some of those AutoCAD fundamentals. How many people have worked with a Linetype file? Working in this crazy interface, right, where we're doing text editing. While it's not so bad if you remember how to do it and you're really good with the syntax and everything, you're just doing text file editing. And what can be a lot more effective is if we can see the line types we're creating. And so we have a very intuitive tool, very easy to use. It's called Linetype Manager. And here I've just browsed to open up that lin file I just showed you. And what we instead is get all those line types parsed into here. And most importantly, we get our line type preview showing up. Now this is the main goal of Linetype Managers, to give you a preview of those line types. Now when we're working with that, you have a ton of control on it. So we're not just previewing the Linetype file, we do all of our editing in here as well. So like this hot water supply, I can click on it and go into edit, and then I get an editing interface that is much more intuitive, much easier to work with. Perhaps the text inside there shouldn't be HW, maybe it should just be HOT. Now when I tab out of this, you're going to see the preview update down here. I can change my drawing scale, see what that looks like in detail. So it turns out the space after the text needs to be a little longer. Okay, I can try 0.25. That spacing updates right away. Let's go a little longer, 0.28. Okay, you can see visually just how I'm showing it here, how quickly you can edit and create line types. This is the point of Linetype Manager, the preview, and then the ability to edit and create them. Let's go ahead and create a new one here. Maybe it's an electrical line type. And then if we look at it in more detail, we've got a list of components here. Now, in line types, you only have so many components you can build. We've got them listed out here: lines or dots, spaces, text, or shapes. There's really only 4 types of components, and then you spell out the properties for each. Now, lines and spaces are pretty straightforward. Let's delete a couple of these. We need a line and a space, and then let's put a text component in. Now this text is going to be, we're going to put the words EL in there. Now as I tab through this, you can see the preview showing up. So as I'm building it, I can play around with this, like the text height. Okay, maybe the Y offset, we need to bring that down a little bit and see that preview showing up. And jump back to 50 scale. Okay. Now I need a space component after my text so that that continuous line where it repeats, there's some space there. Now it defaults to 1. Let's try 0.3. Looks like that was pretty close. I think I want to bring it all a little closer in the first place. And you can see how quickly you can edit this stuff. Okay, I hit OK to this. Now if I hit save to this file, let's go back to our notepad editor, and I'm going to reload this. And then showing up at the bottom here is that new electrical line type. So we're not creating anything proprietary. We're just giving you an interface along with a preview to edit this in much more intuitive ways. We've had this out. People have been using this for several months now. Almost a year we've had the CIM Manager Suite out. And this is certainly one of the more popular tools in it. It makes line type editing that much quicker. We've got always enhancements coming down the road. We've got a nice enhancement coming where you're going to have quick, easy conversion between imperial and metric standards. So I'm pretty excited about that one. We'll be able to convert the parameters in a particular line type from metric units to imperial units. Now, line types are unitless, but the values you might put in there, like these ISO line types, these are more metric standards. Anyway, we'll be able to run conversions across those line types. So pretty excited about that update. So a few other things. We can import line types from a drawing. If I've got a couple line types on some objects in here, it can read those, and I can import those into my lin file. I've got detailed control on the text or shapefile rotation on this stuff. I can specify that as it comes in. And then you can see down here, those line types are written to my lin file. If we go back to the lin file itself, you'll see those show up down at the bottom. Okay. Line type editing and creation can be one of those things you can just waste hours and hours, not to mention days on. Or sometimes you don't do it and you kind of limp along and your plans have these line types where the text isn't quite centered or the spacing around it, right? And it's about the quality of your deliverable at your organization. And just taking the time to do that, that shouldn't be the hurdle for making your plans look as good as you can. And so Linetype Manager helps you along the way with that. That happens to be a free tool in the CIM Manager Suite. So if you're not using the CIM Manager Suite now, download it. You can get Linetype Manager for free. The other ones come with a trial, are paid afterwards, of course. Let's move on to another tool. When building out Civil 3D templates, editing them, overhauling them, we're of course dealing with links between all these things, like layers embedded in styles. Let's take an example. Let's look at our profile view styles. These are large, complicated styles, and embedded in here are all sorts of layers. And as we're kind of refining things or changing things or updating or building a new template in the first place, right, we need to be managing this stuff. And how many times have you guys, as you're trying to change a layer or understand where a layer is being used, you've been hunting through these styles? Is it in there? Nope, it's not in there. Right? And you don't know where it's being used. If I go to those profile layers, there's a whole bunch of them, right? Are they being used in styles, in the profile view styles, in the profile styles themselves? You just don't know, right? It gets pretty tricky. I try to delete it, it tells me I can't. If you run a laydel command, a force delete, it deletes it, but then you don't know what it got replaced with. If you run an audit, it'll throw layer 0 in there, but maybe you want to switch it out with something else. Same thing goes for text styles. Think about our text styles and all the different places they're used across Civil 3D styles, across other styles in your templates and drawings, across blocks, you name it. It's one of the fundamental pieces of our templates and standards. And again, we don't know where they're being used. We try to delete them, can't get rid of them. If we're looking in our edit label style defaults, we can force some things like we can force a text style change across a bunch of styles at once, but we don't quite know what that's doing. It's kind of a behind the scenes edit. And while that can be a powerful change if you know what you're doing, you still don't know where those text styles are being used. So to avoid wasting hours and hours looking for style references and layer references, text style references across your templates and drawings, we can use Template Tracker. And in here, I've got 4 of the main building blocks in our templates: layers, text styles, dimension styles, and multi-leader styles. And if I pick on them, we can even filter by prof. Here was that profile line layer. Now it tells me it's in a profile style. So it wasn't in a profile view style, it happened to be in a profile line style. I can swap this out. Maybe I want C-Road Prof instead. Okay, and now I can delete it out with the delete layer down there. Maybe some of those surface layers, for example. We've got maybe too many contour layers. We can see where these are being used. Okay. See Topo Major. It's referenced across all these styles. How much time would you spend if you wanted to change that? Right? You'd come to your surface styles here. You jump into each one, go to the display tab, find it, change it, right? I can instead just grab it here and say swap all of these out. And then all those references are gone and I can delete it out. Now, if you don't want to just swap for one or the other, but you want to dive in, you can do that right here. So C minor, Topo Minor, we can dive into one of those styles right here. I can do edit style layers. And then it shows for each of the display modes, plan, model, section, whatever applies to that style, I can edit it in detail right here. So lots of control. That's layers. What about text styles? Those can be a big bird. I can't tell you how many templates I've seen with just these extraneous text styles in there, and the reason they're there is why. It's like, well, I don't know how to get rid of them, right? Or it takes too much time, or I don't know what I'm doing when I force delete them out of there. Same thing here. We can go to text styles. Here's all the text styles in my drawing. Here's that annotative text style. Turns out that's being used across the default dimensions. It's the default text style. There's entities in the drawing. these entities out here, and then all kinds of Civil 3D styles. What about that SHR text style or this S4 one? Those are being used by blocks in the drawing. I can swap that text style out. It then allows me to delete that text style. Same kind of thing here. I mean, references and blocks, you'd have to know where they are and then go into each block definition, delete them out, and then you could actually delete your text style. So keeping your templates clean, just the right amount of text styles you want users to be using is important. Moving on here, we've got dimension styles. Okay, maybe it's not just template work, but it could be, think of like a standards checker on drawings. You could be checking for where particular styles are being used. This standard one is used on those two entities. Okay, I could swap that out for usage on for annotative, and then that dimension style changes. I could do it across 200 references at once. Same with the multi-leader styles. I can find references. It actually tells me the entity, it's an M leader, and then it reads out the text in that M leader instance. Okay, maybe the annotative references need to be swapped to standard references. Okay. So template tracker is a really handy tool, and it's modeless as well, meaning I can have this open, and at the same time I can be working in my layers manager. I can be working in the settings tab of tool space. You'll jump back to this whether you're creating new templates, whether you're editing or just cleaning up your existing templates. You'll jump into here all the time because you're trying to understand where all those fundamental pieces, layers, text styles, dim styles, multi-leader styles, where they're being used, and you want to be able to quickly switch them out. Let's move on. Let's talk more about layers. In a Civil 3D world, we try to get away from layers some, right? We've got Civil 3D styles. They've got a lot more to them, right? But we're still using layers in a lot of different ways. And so we're still managing a substantial layer set. And with that, we have this interface. And while it's not so bad, what kind of interface would be a lot easier to work on when dealing with a list or a table like this? Of course, it's Excel, right? And so we've got a set of tools here that address all the major table interfaces in Civil 3D, and they allow you to work in Excel and then sync back or update your template and drawings from Excel. So let me show you how some of this works. I'm going to start with the layer manager. So instead of working here, I can't do things like mass deletion or like find and replace or all kinds of things. Or I'm creating a new layer list. It can be pretty clumsy. So let's export the DWG layers right up here. And then I get the export dialog box. And with this, I can pull layers from my current drawing. I can pull from XREF. So say we're kind of aggregating layer sets from maybe some multiple templates. We're trimming our template set down. We want to bring those layers together into a new master list. I can pull from all sorts of locations. I can limit the layers I'm exporting by filters. And then because we want to be able to set things like different line types when we're in Excel, Layer Boss is going to actually pull the line types from our lin files that we have pathed in options. And it's going to show up in Excel. I'll show you what I mean in just a minute when we do this export. We can have a color, the background cell color in Excel. And then if we're using STBs, we can actually have it include the plot styles from our current STB file. So let's run an export. Export this out to a standard Excel file. And what it's going to give us is, for one, some nice formatting. Right, so the headers up here are bold and shaded, okay? And then remember we were just talking about line types, okay? So it's not just a blanket copy and paste like from a clipboard to Excel. We're giving a really smart Excel export. So in the line type cells here, you have drop downs that show every line type that's not just in the drawing you exported from, but actually from those lin files you checked as well. And if we select a line type, for example, here, that isn't imported into the drawing currently, when we sync this back, it's going to go out to those lin files and automatically import them from our line type file. So it's Excel, right? So copy and pasting becomes really quick and easy. Setting plot styles, for example, here's that smart list being exported again. And this is just standard Excel behavior. It's data validation on here, so that we just automatically write lists to the export. Thinking about our layer descriptions, this is an underused area of Civil 3D often, but layer descriptions can be helpful for users to understand what goes on that layer. And in fact, one of our tools in our production end user suite, the CIM Project Suite, it takes advantage of layer description quite a bit. And so it might be something like this, just a find replace on the description column, right? That would be normally a very tedious text edit. And I can do something like a control points is to switch out for just control. 10 quick replacements. Okay, maybe some layers. Let's delete a few out of here. We're getting rid of these V node layers. Okay. Now I know what you might be thinking. Some of those layers are referenced in styles in my template. What's going to happen, Brian, when I sync this back? Right? Because Excel doesn't know about those styles. I'll show you that. When we update this to our template, we're going to be able to handle those in really smart ways. Let's do a couple other things, maybe some color changes there, assigning those line types, and let's delete a few layers, make a couple new ones. Did the deletion. Making a new layer. What if you make a mistake? What if you duplicate the layers in there? It's just Excel, right? You could put anything in your table that you want. Let's do that and we'll see how it comes back. So like I said, we're not just exporting to Excel. The point with Layer Boss is to be able to do your work in Excel and then sync it back. So if I run create edit DWG layers, now I can browse to that Excel file. And then I can update the current drawing, or I can browse to a location if I wanted to. Then I can sync, and now sync, what that's going to do is it's going to update and replace the current drawing, the current template. Whereas if I did an add, it would simply add layers that are in the Excel file that don't exist in the Civil 3D template. So we're going to do sync, and when I hit next, we get a nice preview of what is about to happen. So I've got new layers. There's that CIM site. I've got updated layers. Here's all those highlighted line type changes. Then I've got duplicate layers, CIM. It's got 2 of them. So there's that mistake I was talking about, right? It's Excel. It'll let you do anything. But let's go back and delete this now so we can work in both at the same time. Have Excel open, come back here, click the reload button in the bottom right. And now the duplicate layers, those are empty. There's unchanged layers. You can confirm that you didn't change some of those. And then there's a whole bunch of layers that we deleted, right? And we should expect them to show up here. But they're what? They're embedded in Civil 3D styles. And this is a normal thing, right? So many of our layers, most of our layers end up being embedded in Civil 3D styles. So they show up down here. Now, if we didn't want to delete them because they had references, it's just going to default to ignore those. But if we did want to switch them out, I could uncheck ignore, and then here for vnode text, I could simply choose a layer to switch out for. But what if you don't know where that layer is being used? Well, the little 3 dots here, the ellipsis, will launch Template Tracker, the tool we just talked about. It'll launch that within Layer Boss. And then we can look at vNode text and find that, oh, there's a bunch of point label and point styles referencing this, and we can switch that to vNode. Okay. And now when I close out of that, vNode text now shows up under deleted layers, and my preview is updating as I go along. Now maybe I know, okay, all of those, I get it, those are all vNode layers. We want to switch those out. So I can actually shift select, grab them all at once, and then we could change them all for a different layer if that's in fact what we wanted to do. Okay. A couple of those vNode layers are showing up under deleted layers, but referenced in description keys. We differentiate between these two because when they're referenced in a style, Civil 3D won't let you delete them. But if they're referenced in a description key set, it will let you delete them, but we still note that so you understand what's happening. If you want to just force delete the layer anyway, that's fine. You can just uncheck it. The reference to that layer name will still reside in the description key set, but the layer itself won't be in Layer Manager. So let's hit OK to this, and then take a look at our Layer Manager. And we'll see all of those vNode layers are gone, except for the one basic vNode. Okay. If we look, scroll back up, we'll see some of those. Here were some of those line type changes. CIM site, there was the new layer we made. Okay, so that's editing and updating your template. Okay, but what if you're building a new template? Okay, let's do this. Let's do a save as of this Excel file, and let's say this is new layers. Just make a new one here, and I'm cleaning this whole list out. We're defining a whole new layer set. Grab the entire set of rows. In fact, delete those. And I just want to show one little example of the power of working with layers in Excel. It's Excel, and we can make other tabs. And like I said, say you're building out a new layer definition set, you're overhauling your templates. We can take advantage of macros and formulas in Excel to do this work much more quickly for us. So for example, storm sewer or sanitary sewer, maybe there's water, okay. Maybe we've got some pave layers. It's bituminous, we've got concrete, got curb, maybe some topo layers. We've got minor contours, we've got major, okay. Whatever the case may be, and I'm not going to do this for a whole major layer set, but because it's Excel, we can do all those things we know that are quick and easy, but think about how quickly you can create layers in this way. Put that dash in there, and you copy and paste that around, okay? And then using some simple macros with the ampersand or the and function, I can assemble layer prefixes and disciplines just as quickly as I had shown you, and then build out layer names much more quickly, okay? Now as I do that, I can come back here, I can simply reference that full layer name, and then it shows up here. Okay, now that's just one example. I'm sure you guys are great with Excel. You can do all kinds of things, right? That's why we went to Excel. It's a universal place to work and allows you to do most anything you want. Got line weights, those are exporting as well. Okay. The colors, you can just type in the color you want if you know what it's supposed to be. Okay. I'll save this. Let's come back to Civil 3D. Let's go ahead and make a new template. Say we're making a new template from scratch even. We'll start from the AutoCAD DWT. Now in here I've got no layers, nothing existing, and I want to incrementally bring in different pieces. I built all my new layer set. Let's bring that into the template. Okay, so 0 layers currently. We just did that work in Excel. Let's go and browse to that new layers and make sure I save that new layers Excel file. Sync or add won't make any difference in this case because there are no layers. And on the next screen we get a whole list of new layers. I hit OK. Okay. And there they are, the right colors, line types, and so forth. I just did it with a handful of layers, right? But you get an idea how quickly you can build this stuff out, right? So effective templates don't need to be a hurdle for efficient production with your teams, right? You can do this stuff in way less time, getting them the tools, the templates they need. All right, more on layers. We've got more interfaces. I said what we do with CIM Manager Suite is we take the 4 major table interfaces. Here's a second one, your object layers. Building out this is really tedious. You can't even do mass selection. It's one at a time. And worse yet, if you run a layers and settings and styles import from one drawing to the next, none of your object layers come along, right? So instead of, again, working there, we're going to export that list to Excel. And then open that right away. And here's my object layers. And of course, it gets really easy and quick to work in. Perhaps for alignments, maybe we forgot about a layer. We didn't make it when we were using the DWG Layers creation tool. Well, right here, I can just type the layer name I want, and it'll create that when I sync this back to Civil 3D. Perhaps I want a suffix, and I want to do dash asterisk, so it takes on the name of the Civil 3D object. That's just native behavior in the software. And then other things like copy and pasting become really handy because I don't need to type this out and reference it every time. Normally when you set a layer, you got to go in there and you get a second dialog box. And in here, I can just really quickly paste things around. Right, you get the idea. What if you type something that isn't appropriate, right? I bumped this and I put a question mark right here. Maybe I bumped this right here, this DF, that shouldn't have been that, it should be assembly. Okay, that's what we're reading when we sync back to Civil 3D. Let me show you what happens there. Make a few other changes just so you get the idea of what we're doing. Let's come back to Civil 3D. And then just like with the DWG layers, we're going to do a create edit object layers. I'm going to browse out to Excel. I'm going to tell it to create new layers. Okay. And then we get a preview or a readout of what's about to happen. So there's a little legend down here telling you what the coloring does. The blue is the updated layer does not exist. Okay. That was this one right here. We typed in C align, and it's flagging it because that layer doesn't exist in the drawing. But so long as we check on create new layers, it's going to be created when I hit OK. And then there's an error here. Okay, it won't even let me go forward. If I try to hit OK to this, it says, there's an object type column contains invalid entries. The layer column has invalid characters. Okay, much like the other tool, we can come back here, fix our mistake. So because we're going to the world of Excel, we know anything's possible. So we're trying to build in those nice error checks so you get all the advantages of going to Excel and none of the disadvantages or incompatibility issues. Now I come back here, I click reload, and then watch what happens to these. The highlighting goes away, we're good to go. All the green, those are ones that are going to change. I hit OK to this. We'll look at our layers first. There's that C align layer, and then if we look at our object layer settings, we'll see all those modifiers, modifier values, new layers set, okay? Even if it's just exporting that set from one drawing and then writing it to another, there's no way to do that right now. You'd spend a ton of time on it. And while it's not necessarily something you do every day, to spend 2 minutes on it versus 3 hours, that makes a big difference because you guys have a ton on your plate. You're supporting a lot of users, a lot of you are doing production as well. The time you spend on CAD management is really some of the most valuable efforts that you make, and you need to be able to get as much done as possible. Now moving on, other table interfaces in Civil 3D. Of course, one is the description key set, probably one of the biggest of all, and really clumsy to work in. Okay, this deals with creating points, and for a given description, what layer, what style is assigned to these. These are essential for any survey template, or if you're creating stakeout points, you know, anything related to surveying points, the description key set comes into play. And this is a worse interface than the layer manager. When I'm creating new description keys like this, you see it kind of glitches around. If I copy them, it jumps around, okay? If I'm trying to edit them, maybe I want to hit return and tab to the next row, right? It jumps all over the place. You can't work effectively in here. So what we can do instead is what? Export to Excel. What better place is there to work with these tables than Excel? So we're going to export the CTC description key set. That'll show up here. And then again, we get a smart export, nice formatting. And what would we want to come with our description key set? Well, I want my point styles. Those are here, all your point styles in your drawing. I'd want my point label styles. I'd want my layers themselves. Okay, all of those show up in here. And then the other options like parameters, those are auto-populated drop-downs showing only what your choices are. So again, the speed of Excel, but with all the features of working within the software itself. And then the cleanup in here is quite easy. Maybe there's a few layers or description keys to delete. Some of the editing here, right? Assignment of point styles, press and drag like this. Again, we can do things like type in a layer name that doesn't exist, and it'll create that layer for us. We had reason for a unique layer there. Okay, creating new description keys. Let's make a copy. Insert copied cells. So we've got a CB catch basin manhole to create. Okay, we've got catch basin there, but we don't have catch basin manhole. Now I can choose from my point styles here, but what if the one I want isn't created yet, right? Think about building out a new description key set. It's not just the codes themselves, but it's all the point styles you have to create as well with all those unique symbols in them. Well, here I could type the point style I want created. And the message that Excel is giving me is that this doesn't match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell, meaning the drop-down options, CBM doesn't exist in there. Well, I can say OK, let it create that anyway, and then I can choose blocks that were in my drawing. So this is an extra feature we do. When we export the description key set, we allow you, or we send with it all of the block names within that drawing. So if you're building out a new key set, get all your blocks in the drawing, then run this export, and you'll have all the blocks show up in this dropdown. You can quickly create point styles by just simply typing out the name, and then when we sync it back, it's going to automatically generate those point styles for us. Okay, so I made a new description key. I deleted a few out of here. Let's delete this one. Didn't want that. Okay, you get the idea. It's Excel. It's quick and easy to work with. You know, another thing I didn't mention, especially on the survey side, you know, those who oversee or are in charge of the code list, often they're not necessarily CAD users, right? And so if you can give them an Excel file and tell them to spell that out, perhaps even on a different tab here, you know, where you could build out your survey code list here, you could put out descriptions or type descriptions. One tab could be your field sheet, your cheat sheet for the crews in the field, and then the other tab is what we sync back to Civil 3D, and we could reference the master list that the survey manager takes care of here. We could reference that into here and then simply build out all of our Civil 3D settings. Possibilities are endless. Okay, let's come back to Civil 3D. We'll run create, edit, description keys. Simply browse to that Excel file. Here's that option. I can create a new one, or I can choose an existing one, and I can sync, which again is to, we've got little help things here. This will add new codes, update existing codes, and delete codes not found in the Excel file. Okay, that's what we're after here, because we want additive and subtractive changes coming from Excel to our template. And then I can tell it to create new point and label styles at the same time if I wish. I can hit next, and then again we get that readout of what's about to happen. I've got new codes I'm creating here, a new point style. It's highlighting in red because it doesn't exist. But with the Survey Template Manager, it's automatically going to generate that point style. Here's some changed codes, unchanged codes, and then deleted codes down here. I hit OK to this. And we take a look at our description key set. We'll see all the changes made. There's that new setting there, V-node electric box culvert. We set that. CBM, that was that new catch basin manhole code. Okay, it automatically generated this new point style and put the new block in it. Okay, I'm not going to go through that whole workflow of creating a new survey template with this tool. I'm just trying to give you guys an overview with it. But on my YouTube page, I've got all these different workflows: building a new survey template, building a new template in general, right? I've got all these different use cases of it, so make sure to go check those out to see the workflows and how to plug these tools in exactly. Or a lot of you might be seeing this stuff and go, I get it, I know where to use it. It's pretty straightforward, and move on with it. Okay. The last interface, the last major table interface, it's the worst of them all. It again has to do with survey, and it's our figure prefix database. This is the list of survey codes that we want Civil 3D to automatically generate line work from. Or basically, when a survey figure is created, how is it styled? Well, it's based on the description of it. Okay, so here's all your survey codes that should be generating line work and what to do with them. Tagged as a break line, what layer, what style, and so on. This is a table that's written outside of the drawing. It's written to an external file. And it, much like the description key set, if I just do a few edits here, you can see how glitchy. This is not GoToWebinar and slowness through the screen share I'm doing here. It's this slow and glitchy. Okay. That one, it's just painful to work in. So I'll take just a minute and show you this one briefly. We can export this just so you can see it. And there it is again. Okay, we can quickly copy and paste codes from our description key export, paste them in here, set our layers, right? All those kinds of changes. Maybe the text, we don't want it to be line. We want it to be break line, or right, changing all those layer names at once. Okay. Civil 3D styles themselves. It's often a good practice to use a basic standard style across survey figures, but there can be reasons. Again, using our data wizard tool, we can take advantage of styles and ways to populate legends and tables and things like that. And so I found that use of survey figure styles can be helpful in that when quantifying existing condition stuff, for example. So anyway, a few changes there. We can delete a couple things. And you get the idea, right? We come back to Civil 3D. We run create edit figure prefix database. Go out and grab that CTC demo Excel file. Instead of create new one, I will sync it to CTC demo. And then again, we got that option to create new survey figure line styles. And then I get a preview of what's about to happen here. And again, it highlights red. It's telling me the layers don't exist. But I can still set that in my figure prefix database if I want. Got deleted codes here. Now if we open that up, there we've set all those new layers. Okay. And we're on our way. Okay. So that's the CIM Manager Suite. You can see it touches on and really helps all different parts of your daily work on templates. Or oftentimes it's not daily, it might be big overhauls. You're spending days or weeks on this stuff. And I guess I would leave you guys with just a few major conclusions, what we're doing with this. All the major table interfaces, what we're doing is we're syncing with Excel. We're letting Excel be the master copy of this stuff, and then we sync that back. All four of those: layer manager, object layers, description keys, and figure prefix database. We can track layer and style references, another one of the most popular tools in the suite, because you spend so much time trying to find those text style references embedded across your templates. Line type editing, right? We should have been able to do that visual line type editing 20 years ago. Anyway, it's here now. You can do it with the Linetype Manager. Template work, it really needs to be quick and timely, right? This is an important part of your guys' job. And an hour of work that you spend on your templates can save dozens of hours of work across your teams. And really, better templates make for more productive staff. So if you guys don't have this, a lot of you guys don't have this, how do you get it? It's the CIM Manager Suite. That's what we're talking about here. This is a suite of tools. We have network licensing on this, standalone licensing. Here's our website. Information, intro videos on all this stuff, and descriptions of the tools themselves. Okay, come to our website, check it out here, and then contact us right through here. You can get a trial right here and download a free trial. Okay, all the detailed pricing information is here. The CTC tools always work for the current and the 3 previous versions. So whatever versions you have installed on your machine, those will show up. That price up there, that's for a full network license, and that's to buy it one time. But the renewal on this stuff is simply $300 a year, right? So you guys, you almost can't afford not to use it, right? You buy into it once, and then it's a few $100 a year. And a CIM Manager Suite license, again, with a network, you can share it across multiple people. Really valuable tool. So